The cover of one of the first books I ever owned depicted dinosaurs being led onto Noah's Ark, and it didn't get any better inside. The purpose of the book was to dismiss evidence for evolution and convince readers of biblical literalism and what's called young earth creationism. Basically, that the first few chapters of Genesis are to be taken literally, and that the world was created in 6 24-hour periods only a few thousand years ago. In the case of this book from my childhood, that meant describing how humans and dinosaurs had lived at the same time, having been created only a few days apart from each other, or possibly the same day. I have since forgotten the details, and I refuse to look them up. The flood from the story of Noah is why the single continent of Pangaea broke up, and animals and humans spread out about the same time and at a similar rate as Earth's land masses. Dinosaurs fit onto the ark along with the original breed of every animal, and genetic speciation is the actual reason why there are so many types of so many animals now, which is, again, only a few thousand years later. The cartoon series Adventure Time has a more accurate view of the Mesozoic era, and that one involves an ice wizard stealing magic rubies from a lava monster. The truth is, the universe came into being about 14 billion years ago. The Big Bang Theory is the best explanation we have for how it happened. The Sun formed about 4.6 billion years ago, the Solar System around 4.57, and the Earth around 4.54 billion years ago. From 160 million years ago to 65.5 million years ago, dinosaurs existed and then went extinct. Human beings first showed up about 6 million years ago, and we didn't get to roughly where we're like now biologically until about 2 million years ago. That's an amazing story. It's awe-inspiring and terrifying and beautiful, and is not irreconcilable with a God or the God of the Bible who is involved in everything from maintaining the universe to the inner workings of each individual human heart. I get it. Young earth creationists need every part of the Bible to be literally true, otherwise how can any of the Bible be true? They impose their own slippery slope argument onto themselves because their literalism has backed them into a corner. A convoluted, pseudoscientific fable that defies all reason and available evidence is easier than admitting that those few chapters about the creation of the world can be interpreted figuratively. Their entire worldview of how the universe works and their place in it depends on refusing evolution. I mildly challenged a church friend once about geology, and he condescendingly replied, "You're assuming carbon dating is accurate." I should have challenged him more, because carbon dating is accurate, but I didn't want to be thought of as a bad Christian. And how could I have said that I believed in a personal creator God if I was willing to believe in carbon dating? Creationists will single out the words theory and observable for their arguments and say that theory describes something unproven and observable means you have to witness it with your own eyes. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of what those words mean in a scientific context. A theory is something generally accepted as fact, and observable refers to how the same results are reached over and over experimentally. No scientist claims to be millions of years old, having witnessed the progress from Australopithecus to Homo sapiens firsthand. But that's seen as some kind of foothold from which to vault to the conclusion that a preacher in Kentucky knows more about complex systems than someone with 3 PhDs in physics. That book about dinosaurs on the Ark wasn't the last book I read on that topic. I grew up and went on to debate my high school biology teacher and cancel my National Geographic subscription. I donated $20 to the construction of the Creation Museum in Kentucky. I talked about how the Earth is only 4,000 years old to friends of mine from India and China, where buildings exist that are older than that. Most other countries on Earth don't deal with this, by the way. The Catholic Church points to St. Augustine as having developed a rudimentary evolutionary theory. The Church of England issued an apology to Darwin, about 100 years too late, but still. Christians all over the world have faith in the Jesus Christ of the Gospels and with the book of Genesis as a metaphorical creation myth. That's part of why I stopped believing in creationism. How could everyone else on earth be wrong? Were only American Christians going to heaven, and only a small subset at that? It felt cruel and absurd. Unfortunately, American evangelical missionaries cannot admit that they are wrong, so they are exporting their bad ideas. Young Earth creationism has started taking root in other countries around the world, along with all the misogyny and homophobia that has come to define far-right Christian nationalism here. Salvation is becoming as dependent on the ideas of a few notorious hate-mongers as on whatever is actually in the Bible in the first place. Worse, sometimes it's painted as a conspiracy, as if every archaeologist, astronomist, and biochemist is actively working to maliciously promote atheism and godlessness. Christians turn what should be a mutually respectful search for truth into an adversarial match of incompatible philosophical viewpoints. And the Christians get to be the victims even when they're the ones in charge of the legislature. I shudder to think of what else I may have swallowed if I had not realized the truth about evolution. It's a short trip from young Earth creationism to all manner of conspiracy theories choking the public discourse right now. The moon landing was fake, vaccines cause autism, the Earth is flat, the coronavirus is a bioweapon, whatever the hell QAnon is. Science is real. Evolution is a fact. The Earth is round. The Queen of England is not a shape-shifting lizard person. I hear some of these things, and yes, I snicker and worry about the state of this country, the world, education, and future generations. But I also feel relief that I am no longer at risk of agreeing with them. Thank you.